What is up, guys? I am Matt, back with another video. Today we're going to check out a pretty interesting little all-in-one kit. This thing is made by VIVAKITA. It actually works well for a direct lung draw or a mouth-to-lung draw, so let's go ahead and have a look at the Fusion. All right, this is the Fusion all-in-one kit made by VIVAKITA. I've reviewed something else by VIVAKITA before. What was it called? The Move Grand, something like that. It was another kit, more for like direct to lung draws. So this is their newest offering. It's basically a little all-in-one built-in battery kit. It is regulated though, which is actually cool and something we don't see very often in this type of device. You can use it at 30 watts, 40 watts, or 50 watts. It has a built-in 1500 mAh battery, holds 2 mLs of e-liquid. It has that same top fill design as like the My One and the Ego AIO, where you pull the top cap and the chimney assembly out of it and fill it up to the little max line. Now, the reason I think they did the 2 mLs and then they also have a locking feature here on the top cap is for it to be TPD compliant. If you're wondering why it doesn't hold very much liquid, that's probably why. At 50 watts with the airflow wide open, I get a nice restricted lung hit. But I can close the airflow way down and use it at 30 watts, and it actually works pretty nicely for a mouth-to-lung draw. So right now I do have it set up with the airflow wide open. I have it all the way up at 50 watts. Let's vape it. Very nice. Yeah, there's a lot of good here with this one that I do like quite a bit. So what we'll go ahead and do now is dive down to the table and take a closer look at it. All right, big thanks to Coilmaster for sponsoring the up-close portion of this video. Link, as always, will be down in the description below. Today, folks, we are looking at the VIVAKITA Fusion. Quite a large box, actually, for a kit like this. Inside, you are going to have an instruction manual, a little QC card, your device all wrapped up in plastic, and then a charge cable and an extra coil head. Okay, so here is your device. It's got kind of a glossy finish, but it's got one of those glossy sparkle finishes where it's got the sparkles kind of underneath. These are a lot more solid than I thought they would be when I first looked at it online. It just feels substantial. Not that it's heavy, it just, it's made mostly of metal and hard plastic, and it just doesn't have a cheap feel. Like in the Me One video, I had said that one did have kind of a cheap feel and that some of the build quality wasn't great. This definitely has a better build quality than this does and does feel a little more substantial. So now this is all TPD compliant. So it does have a lock on the top cap, kind of like the My One, where you push that down and then unscrew it. Like so. And then here's what that whole assembly looks like. Now these coil heads don't screw in or anything. They're actually held in with these O-rings, which is kind of a cool idea, actually. I quite like that. Makes it nice and simple. So if you look down there, the airflow does come down the outside chamber, hit the coil from the top, I believe, and then goes up into that center chamber, okay, when you're vaping on it. And these coil heads are a little low for this type of kit as far as resistance. 0.25 Kanthal, 30 to 60 watts. The second one this comes with is also a 0.25, so I think they only have the 0.25s right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime this coil before we install it and just put a couple drops of liquid down the center there, try to get it on the wick, and then we'll just reinstall that to the chimney section there. And now this does have a max fill line on it, just like the My One kits and the Ego AIO kits. And that fill line is pretty far down because if you look at this whole assembly, it's pretty substantial, so it's going to displace quite a bit of liquid. So again, you just press down and screw it tight. And there's a little look at that safety lever right there that you press up and down. You press it down to unscrew. It kind of catches and then it helps you unscrew, but it won't unscrew unless you're pushing it down. So it's basically a child lock. Okay, so 5 clicks does turn this on. Now to switch between wattage, it's 3 quick clicks. So 1 is the 30 watt wattage. 2 is the 40 watt wattage. 3 is the 50 watt wattage. So you can choose one of those 3 levels. There's your charging port right there. You can use this as a pass-through, so you can charge it while you're vaping. There is no extra venting into the bottom here, but it does vent through the port there. So it should be okay, but I know sometimes it gives people an extra peace of mind if there's some, some holes down here as well. Also, it's worth pointing out that this is glass right there, so you're going to want to be a little bit careful of it, but it does have this nice cage in front of it. It'd be really hard to break that. Cleaning this is a lot like cleaning these other all-in-one devices. You obviously want to be careful not to get water over here into the electronics. With these, I usually put a little bit of water in here. I'll plug the hole up with my finger, shake it around, or you can use some sort of scrub brush or toothbrush with soap or something. But you just don't want to go drenching this whole thing underwater and let water get over to this side of the mod. Keep the water inside that tank there. There's one more shot of how it looks in the hand. It is rather comfortable because it's all rounded on this side. I could thumb fire it that way, or I can fire it that way. And it is quite a bit bigger than the Mi 1. Still a small kit, but the Mi 1 was really, really tiny. All right, so I think that's it for the up close, guys. Let's go ahead, go back up top, vape this, and talk about it a little more. All right, so here is the Fusion. I have it at 40 watts now. I have the airflow way closed down for a mouth to lung hit. Let's go ahead and vape it. Yeah, that's actually really, really nice. Quite enjoy it in like a mouth-to-lung configuration there at that 40 watts. It's really nice and warm and saturated. I get really nice flavor out of it. And dare to say, maybe even a little better flavor than the Ego AIO coils, although I don't think those are any slouch, and I do like those coils quite a bit too. A couple things I forgot to show you guys in the up close. With the 3 lights here, you know how much battery you have depending on how many of those lights are on. So you go to vape it, it shows you what power you're on, and then when you let go, it lights up how much your battery is. So I have a full battery right now, so it lights up those 3. When I'm pressing the button, that shows my wattage at 40 watts, okay? One other thing I did forget to show you guys too is that there is a little light here in this tank, and I forget it's there because it's not very bright. The only time I realize it's there is at nighttime, and that actually lights up different colors. I don't even know if you guys will be able to see that in my lights. I like that it's not like super obnoxious to where it's too bright, but it is something like if you go to use this in a movie theater or something like that, you might want to have your hand over the top of that because there's no way to turn that light off. But honestly, if you're using this with any kind of light around you, you won't even notice it. It's just not a super bright light. So let's talk about pros and cons. Cons first. Liquid capacity. Yeah, that kind of sucks. I get what they were trying to do here. They wanted it to be TPD compliant with the 2 ml thing. So that's kind of the nature of the beast, but you are going to be filling this up more than like say the Mi 1 kit or one of those types of kits. Another con, like I just kind of mentioned, is that it would have been nice if you could turn this whole light feature off, not only because, it might bug somebody if you're in a dark room or something, but also because you have to imagine that's at least draining a little bit of battery. Probably not much though with a little LED in there. Another feature that could be considered a con to some is that they only use their own proprietary coils in here. So it's not going to use like the Ego AIO coils like the Mi 1 does. They do have a really nice site setup where you can buy this. They told me in the next day or two they're going to have the coils on there also. They're like redoing their site. I like their site quite a bit. It seems pretty professional and legit, so it'd be pretty easy to go on there and order one of these and a package of coils, but it's just something you got to keep in mind. You are restricted to just using their proprietary coils. Another thing I do kind of wonder is why they did the ohm so low. Why is it 0.25? I'm not exactly sure how it's being regulated and whatnot, but you'd think that might drain the battery a little bit faster than if it had a higher resistance. But I don't know. You talk to different people and sometimes they say that's negligible. It depends on the chip that's being used inside the mod. But I have noticed that this does last me a fair amount of time. It lasts me just as long as the Mi 1, depending on how I'm vaping it. Mouth to lung at a lower wattage is obviously going to last me longer. If you vape like I do, you're a fairly big chain vapor, you probably won't, a full battery charge probably won't last you all day. For a newer vapor, if you're like, just vaping as much as you smoked and say you were a pack-a-day smoker, in a mouth to lung configuration, it probably would get you through all day. But with the way I vape, not so much. So there's that. But, you know, I'm struggling coming up with other cons. This device did surprise me a little bit. Build quality surprised me. It's a lot better feeling in the hand than I expected it to. It feels a lot more solid. Feels more built to last. Build quality is definitely better than the My One. There's no doubt about it. Vape quality, I think it's a little bit better. And I think partially that's because you can also regulate it. And so I do get a little bit warmer of a vape with this, if that's what I'm going for, than I did with the My One. So I really, really like that. You can at least, I know it's only 3 wattage settings, but you can at least dial it in a little bit more than a lot of these other devices that are just based off of the battery, and you know, the wattage goes down as the battery goes down. Love the fact that they actually regulated this thing. Also, I'm a big fan of like the drip tip they put on this. I think most people will like it. It's not too big and you know, has some huge wide bore or anything like that. I think the mouth to lung crowd will like it, and I think the guys that like more, you know, a restricted lung hit like me will like it. It's quite nice. Yeah, you know, this is a newer company, and so sometimes I get a little bit scared suggesting products from a newer company, but it wouldn't shock me if this device gets pretty popular, because I do think it has a little bit of a leg up over some of the other all-in-one, you know, little tiny kits, because it is regulated, because of the build quality and what have you. So you can get this thing for 40 bucks. I'm not sure yet how much the coils are going to be. Hopefully they're not too expensive. You know, if you can get a 5-pack for around that $15 range, I think it'd be worth it. These types of coils probably will last you a little longer than, you know, high wattage coils, because you're not putting as much power to the coil itself. And so I think that's about it, guys. It does get a thumbs up from me. Don't forget to check out our channel, Matt and V. We upload over there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That about wraps it up. Until next time, thanks for watching. Suck my mod.